Welcome to FAQ Podcast. Look, if you want to subscribe, FAQ Podcast, YouTube, Instagram, you want to advertise, promote, do whatever you want to do, email us, fuzzyandq@gmail.com. That's fuzzyandq@gmail.com. Listen, we're in Miami.
Yes, we are in Miami.
We're drinking starfruit juice and carrot juice mixed together.
Homemade, not
homemade.
Mixed. It's homemade.
We're on a compound. This next person has worked with Amy Winehouse, Nas, Black Thought, Jasmine Sullivan, Sting,
Fugees,
Ludacris, Fugees, Funkmaster Flex. We gotta talk about that. Like, wow, for real.
Supercat,
Dundada.
Ani Kamosi.
Ani Kamosi?
Yeah.
Damn. He's from Queens.
But that's just a small list, though.
I know it's too much. It's Tony
Jasmine
Braxton.
Sullivan,
We're looking
Jennifer
at
Hudson.
Yeah. Is that Kevin? Kevin Little. Look, who are we talking
Mac
about?
Wiles, I like.
Mac Wiles.
One of my favorite albums too, man.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. It was a lot. Listen, he's done a lot. He is here. Well, we are here with him in his home. Salaam Remi, the Salaam Remi. Salaam.
Yo.
Thank you for having us, brother. How you doing, man?
Like we never left.
Yes.
I'm great, bro.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for allowing us to come into your space here in Miami. This is like
It's very exclusive because he doesn't go outside and
very humble because it's like
we're doing this on our own. So
you got layers. You got so many things that we can talk about around the time that you guys will be seeing this. Salaam, it's your 50th birthday, right? Yeah. Around your 50th birthday, and I guess every year, post-pandemic, every year I think people are valuing life a little bit more. What? I know I am, right?
Definitely.
But when you get to those milestones as 50, like, where's your mindset, one, and then two, what was your 40 to 50 or 30 to 50 like to get you to this point?
I guess it's a lot. So, boom, going back to 30, I'm a tried and true New Yorker, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Same pair of Timbs since I left New York because I don't go back as much. But at the end of the day, at 30, my 30th birthday, I arrived in Miami, became a Florida resident.
What brought you to Miami? Like, how did you get here?
Miami was interesting. 2001 was the real year. January 12, 2001, my grandfather had passed. And my dad decided he was going to move to Barbados. And then my 29th birthday that year, my mom passed. And then I was like, all right, cool. That was a shake the world event, you know what I'm saying, as it is right in the middle of my Saturn return. And then the Twin Towers, 9/11, 2001. And it was like, wow. So right after that, my project I had to start, Miss Dynamite, an artist from London, was supposed to start October 1st, and her mother didn't want her to come to New York. They just knocked down the towers. Like, my daughter's not going to New York. You crazy? Right. She's staying here in England. So I was like, all right, you know what? I need a break because this year has been real. So I'm going to go to either Compass Point in the Bahamas, Chris Blackwell's studio, or go to Almaz, had a studio in Trinidad. And then I saw that Chris Blackwell had another studio in Miami. So I was like, you know what? Something break and we in the island. It is what it is. So let me come back to Miami, which I spent time in Miami. You know, how can I be down years? And
yeah, of course.
My people's spec shank specialists and them had moved to Miami. And I had people here, but I was just like, come in and out to Miami, go to the Lowe's, look at the water, leave, you know what I'm saying? But I never really was in Miami. I was more like in South Beach at certain points.
Right.
And then when I ended up here to do that project, it was October. And we got like 30 songs done in 21 days. And I was like, whoa, we're being kind of productive. Because up until that point, I thought that my New York studio and me being on that block and that my equipment and everything else was making my work ethic. And then I realized it's in me. But I could also be in nice weather when it's cold, because then you go back to New York and it's freezing.
You don't want to do nothing.
And it ain't, it just hurt. It is what it is. But then I was just in Miami and I was sitting outside having a pina colada and
chilling,
a shrimp taco by the beach. And then my thing with Miss Dynamite was I create a track and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to give you 30 minutes. I'm going to walk to the beach. So I would walk a block over from Collins to the beach and look at the water and be like, boom. Then I come back and she'd be like, oh, I wrote something. I'm like, oh, that's dope. But you know what? I'm going to make another track to it. Now you take a walk. So she walk to the beach, and it ended up becoming the same room that Scott Storch and Beyonce started in. Wow. And Pharrell was working in there for a while. So a lot of people ended up working out of that South Beach Studios room. because it was right on 11th and Collins. Big up Joe Galdo. But ultimately, that space was dope. And then I was like, I go back to New York and then something be breaking and something be happening. And then I was working with, a lot of Latin artists at the time, Santana and Ricky Martin in particular. He was like, yo, I'm telling you, your life would be so much better. Move to Miami, bro. And I'm like, word. Then whatever happened, things happened. And then, my big studio that I had that I bought next door to Steve Studio 54 that was there for a gazillion years, they knocked down the building on the corner and the studio flooded.
No.
But Noah's Ark moment. I had ordered cases for all of my equipment because I wanted to set up a room in Miami, so I wanted to be able to ship my equipment from New York back to Miami.
So everything was in Anvil cases, pretty much?
The Anvil cases had just arrived that week, and we laid them all out, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, make sure that they work because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was like, make sure all the cases fit before I pay this guy his back end for these 35 Anvil cases.
Because it's expensive.
What?
All the equipment was in cases.
RZA probably heard that
Knocked
story
it
and started
down.
crying.
And when the studio started flooding, they pushed it all up on 18-wheeler.
What?
And that was that. Everything except for the SSL was able to get out. And I
Were
still
you
had
one of those people like that's a
SSL.
sign? Like, okay, I already had it protected. It was already ready to move.
I mean, it was divine. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, there's no way that I had no idea that building would ever
on.
come down. That building, it was a parking lot that had been there since, I'm sure, the 40s or 50s or something.
Right.
Wow.
And on the corner of 54th and 8th. I didn't have any idea they were going to build that 75-story building there. That connected a wall, in the wall right behind the equipment in the basement. Like, I had no idea. So when that happened, it was, once again, we got it. You know what I'm saying? The angels taking care of us, the spirits taking care of us. And I understood what was what. So that was 30. Boom. From there, I end up in Miami. I found an apartment for $775.
Nothing.
I go to the beach every morning. I buy a New York Daily News. I sit there with my two-way and my little AT&T phone or my flip phone or whatever I had and look at the ocean and be like, all right, God, you control this ocean? Well, then what am I? I'm just playing my part. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, that was great. But then I was low, and I was able, that year, 2002, 2 weeks after that, when my mom had passed, I was working with Left Eye. On the day that Left Eye passed, I noticed later on, this artist from London had went and heard the Left Eye record I did called Block Party, went to EMI Music Publishing, ended up getting signed, and Guy Moot, the head of the publishing there, who assigned me in the early 90s, said, hey, would you just meet the girl? And I'm like, you know what? If it's not good people, good music, good money, leave me alone. I'm like, all right, cool. When they come,
A lot of goods.
when they come through, and I'm gonna be like, all right, well, let my 30th birthday pass, because, that was a lot. My mom passed my 30th birthday was a 1-year anniversary. My mother passed on my 29th. Wow. So I was like, all right, cool. So on May 27th, and walks a girl with a guitar, which is actually Left Eye's birthday, who was Left Eye had passed by then.
Right.
And that passed that April. And she started sitting down singing, and she sang Girl from Ipanema and different stuff, and that was Amy Winehouse. Wow. So I met her, and she kind of sparked me, but once again, I was living low. I had a little $1,000 apartment, a little $700, $1,000 studio, rather, a little, studio space I could just do whatever.
Great.
I went down to not really having no bills, so I could spend time working with her. And then the demos we did ended up letting her get her deal. Then, Nas is going through different things. He's like, yo, meet me in Orlando. I came up with ideas, and then that ends up becoming the Godson album. And Kevin Little's hitting me. He has this Turn Me On record. And it's like, yo, I could get an idea. Yo, maybe I could help out with certain things. They've been asking me for a while. Big up Allison Hunt, his manager, and Sprague. Mm-hmm. But then I figured out a way to actually help out with that. And all three of them are born September 14th.
Wow.
Amy Winehouse, Kevin. So that's the 3 projects I ended up doing. While
I was born the same day.
They all born. They all had the same birthday. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like.
Are you a numbers guy? Are you big in numbers?
I'm super numbers. I recognize anything by numbers, like real quick.
What's your favorite number? What's your number?
Master number 11, but I don't know.
So if Fuzz says, like, if somebody tells you their birthday, you're like, oh.
Well, I know. And I know
All right.
exactly. Fuzz is November 10th.
Yep. Wow. 11/10.
All right.
But I also know who else is on November 10th. So, because he got Eve, And
Warren G's November 10th too.
Super Cindy and 99 James, November 10th.
Damn.
Wow.
Yo,
I'm January 12th. I didn't want to because I know that's
Cool. That's
date for
who's
you.
that? Nah, January 9th is Amari. I got a couple January 12ths. It's gonna hit me in a
You
second.
really good at numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, Issa Rae.
Mary's the 11th.
Yes. Mary J.
Angie
Blige.
Martinez, Sean Paul, Omari Hardwick's the 9th.
How the hell you remember all this shit?
Because it's just, I don't know, it just gets in the database for me. But definitely, I'm a numbers person.
Yeah. Well, January 12th is Issa Rae, Jeff Bezos, Howard Stern,
And somebody else that's close to me, I just ain't remembering the second.
and Raekwon. Shout out to Raekwon.
Big up, Ray.
Yeah.
But all that stuff happened. But bottom line is that was 30. So back to the original question,
No,
30
but
to
this
50.
is
Thank
good.
you.
So
This
it's
is
the
good.
context. So that was 30. So then I'm like, I live in Miami, cool. My overhead's low, but the 3 projects I worked on, I was able to work on them from a place of, I don't need this money. I don't need this. I'm just doing it because, all right, cool. I actually feel something with these projects makes sense for me in the bigger picture. And working with Nas at that time was important because that, but then also when the day my mom passed on my 29th birthday, me and him had started working on what goes around. So he just got back to New York from being in LA for a while. And I was like, yo, you want to rhyme on this Sade remix I'm doing? So he comes through. But they called me on that day and said, yo, it was a Monday, May 14th. And they said, yo, do you want to do a remix of Sade's Lovers Rock?
What?
It has to be handed in by Friday, the 18th. And I was like, yeah. I mean, at that time, you know, outside of Pharrell doing, I think, a By Your Side remix, or the Neptunes doing that,
Nobody had really did.
nobody got access to Sade. So for me getting that Sade access at that minute was great. Big up Nick Raphael who called me on that. And Nas came through and he's like, yo, so what you doing? I was like, I gotta go back to Gilmore's. My mom passed. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, my mother died yesterday, but I'm trying to finish this remix by Friday.
Sheesh.
And he's looking at me like I was an alien.
Like, bro.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then 2002, his mom passed. I didn't know his mother was sick as well. So part of our connection bond during the 2002, after my 30th birthday, was also that his mom had passed that April. He was now going through different stuff,
Yeah.
drama,
Yeah.
everything else, which we'll get into later. But just in general, that was the whole thing that I was dealing with. And Amy was coming in, you know, making me tap back into jazz roots and other stuff that I had since, you know, my dad came up in jazz and did different things. So I had that in me. My favorite song that I remember when I was a little kid was Take the A Train by Duke Ellington. You know what I'm saying? That was
Right.
in my mind. Philly Joe Jones made me, Elvin Jones made me a drum set when I was 3, you know what I'm saying? Out in the drum store, he saw me playing, so he put together a whole little kit, you know what I'm saying? So I had enough things in me that made me ready for that project. And then the Caravan Little was just me tapping into Caribbean stuff. Then working with Craig Coleman, who I knew since 89, 90 anyway. Wow. So it was all organic, but it was just the way I was approaching it. Once again, good people, good money, good music. And if it's good people and good music, the money's going to come. Don't worry about it.
What is the first instrument you learned how to play on? Was it drums?
Yeah, it was drums. I was a rhythm kid. You know, had a little conga. Then that turned into a real trap drum set. You know, then my father's. So what I didn't say was that how my father met my mother is that he was in the band with my uncle, my mother's brothers. My mother's brothers, my Uncle Joe plays sax and guitar and pretty much could play anything. And then my Uncle Thomas was a keyboardist. He had done some stuff. You know, he was an organist at the church, but he also played at all platinum, silver, and them type places, and you know, do different things. And then my father's brothers, my Uncle Lennox played percussion with different jazz people. My Uncle Chris was one of Buster Williams' students and played with Brother Ah in D.C. and different people like that. And then my father was a professional musician who took it all away and didn't ever have another job outside the music business.
So you grew up in this culture,
right?
being
So
around music.
I was born into it. You know, I was born. You know, he probably seen my mom's at a band rehearsal. I was like, who that? You know what I'm saying? And then circle back around, and that's what it was. And you know, even that band that they had then, Larry Smith played bass with them. You know what I'm saying? So that was just that Queens thing that happened. And my pops was only a couple years out of growing up in Trinidad at that point, so it was like a whole cultural thing and everything else. But once again, it's just been a great time during these last couple of years because I can look back at it, and we still talk about up to 30.
That's crazy, dude.
So that's the 30 side. You know, once again, success in many different records, Fugees, this and that, New York stuff. We'll get back to all that. Then 35 was Guy Moot, the head of publishing. You know, he's the chairman of Warner Chappell now, but he was at EMI for years. He looked at me one day and said, Salaam, what you going to do? You don't want to be 40 with a beat tape. And I was like, ooh, you know, just the whole thought of being 40 at that point.
Well, from at 35 when he said that, where were you and where do you feel like what was going on in his mind to say that to you?
Well, he was just asking me where did I want to grow it to. I'd already by that time done like, you know, Jamiroquai. You know, I worked with, you know, because he had signed Jamiroquai, so I did the Virtual Insanity remixes that actually helped to get legs, and I was doing a lot of musical stuff. But it was just the whole aspect of, you know, the 40 with a beat tape. Like, nah, son, play number 3. Play number 3. Now, you don't like that, Dad. You just ain't picking my beats. You know, being upset.
I just made this last night. Put that on.
You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm telling you, this is it. Bobbing, you know, bobbing your head hard and hoping that somebody take that. And it was just the whole idea of having my destiny in control of somebody else's mood or feelings. So it was just a thought. And I was like, you're right. So then that led to me working on. So I done, you know, and I still had a lot of success between 30 and 35, between different records with Nas, and then Amy Winehouse stuff started going, everything else. But what ends up progressing is the film stuff. So I took the deal with Atlantic Records. I did the Kevin Little album. They had a soundtrack. I got Rupee signed, Tempted to Touch, boom. He's from Barbados where my pops had moved to. He went over there, started managing Rupee and Allison Hines, and was working on my show for a bit. So he's down there getting what I refer to as his mango money. He's supposed to be on vacation, retired, but he's at people sending me pictures at white parties. This look like your father. Is this your father? I was like, yeah, that is my father. He looked just like you. He in here with all white Air Force Ones on in the party, but he getting his money, going to every carnival around the world, enjoying himself. So what I ended up doing was going and doing a thing with Atlantic. They had a soundtrack for After the Sunset, which was a movie that Brett Ratner directed for New Line Cinema. When that happened, they was like, can you executive produce this? You understand how to get the Caribbean stuff, and you know, they want the soundtrack. So the label just want to get all this stuff in. So I'm like, so can you go to LA now and meet with Brett? So I remember I was in New York. I was like, all right, cool. I'm supposed to be home tomorrow, but okay, so I'll do this. I flew out of New York that morning, got to LA, did the meeting for the movie people, met with Brett. Yeah. Hey, this is what we're going to do. All right, cool, whatever it was, and then got on the red eye that night and went back. So instead of me going the 3-hour flight to Miami, no, I did the 6-hour flight to LA, the 5-hour flight back to get back the next morning. But I was just on it like that. Like, I just got to be able to get up and get it whenever you need it. You say something slick to me, I might get on the plane and be at your door at 10 o'clock in the morning when you get back. Because, you know, you got to be able to show up. But what ended up happening was Brett liked what I did. That he's like, when I do Rush Hour 3, I'm not going to hire these other people. I'm going to have you do everything. Really? And then, definitely. And then Paul Bruchek, who was head of music at New Line Pictures at the time, said, you know what? You know, and I was telling him at that time about Amy Winehouse. I'm telling you, if this is what she is when she's 18, imagine when she's going to be at 25, all this other stuff. So it all just built up. And bottom line, it started me out in a great way to have a film career, because Brett did call me when a couple years later, you know, he got Rush Hour, that was 2007 by then, when he got Rush Hour 3 going. Then Paul was like, I was hoping you could do this. He put me back in pocket, Bob Bowen, Aaron Scully, Paul Bruchek. I finished Rush Hour. I worked with Lalo Schifrin on After the Sunset, then worked with him again on that. So then that's what put my mind into, wow, orchestras, other stuff. So it just let me know I could be a composer.
It opened you up.
Totally.
Explain to our listeners, and maybe Lalo Schifrin is a big deal. Or it was a big deal.
Well, definitely. He still is. Lalo Schifrin's classic. But Lalo Schifrin did the theme to Mission Impossible.
Yes, there you go.
Into the Dragon. He was one of those people, like Quincy was looked at as one type of young composer. Lalo Schifrin was from Argentina, but he had a whole nother thing in rhythm. But like I said, the theme to Mission Impossible is in itself. You can hear what it is as far as orchestral, but the dun, 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 dun. It was the clave. It was like a whole scene One time we was doing a thing and he was in there. No, my gosh, what are you doing? Salaam, where's Salaam? Where's Salaam? Salaam, they are killing the clave. And they didn't understand. No, they can't cut it in the middle. Salaam, please tell them they're killing the clave. We cannot cut the song. You know what I'm saying? It was like that type of stuff. But once again, I learned. And I was willing to put myself in a vulnerable position to learn
classic.
and to be out there and to do stuff. So me taking the deal with Craig, which was kind of on the low, big up Craig, but I actually made it work because I got into the movie space. And then after we finished Rush Hour 3, Paul Bruchek was like, I got something else for you, but he said, I'm not sure, let me know if you're into it. And he's like, what's that? He was like, well, New York is a character in this film. And I was like, yeah, it's like Sex in the City. And I was like, ooh, perfect. Me and Angie Martinez used to watch Sex in the City on Sundays. If we were in the studio doing different stuff, we would take a Sex in the City break to sit down and watch it. And I was just interested in seeing how much craziness they was going to say in between stuff. Yeah. And you know me, I'm picking up game. You know what I'm saying? That I could flip back in another form. But it was a great time just because now when I was getting to do that, now I go back to Craig and Craig turns around and says, so let me ask you a question. How did I end up talking to you about Sex in the City? I was like, oh, remember when you gave me that short deal to do the Caribbean records for you for After the Sun? Well, I went over there and they liked me so much. They started partnering with me on more stuff. I got an office in New Line to sit down and figure stuff out, while I'm working on it because I'm planting myself there. Oh, I got a house in L.A. I'm planting myself. And now, me and Brett got some companies together that we're working on other stuff. The film likable guy. And just
the film money's different, huh?
I think the film money is different, but more than anything else, once again, good people, good music, good content, good stories. Mm-hmm. The money's going to come. And to this day, that education I got from working on those films, not just, I've done other things, Entitles for Blood Diamond and, Office Space. Me and Cannabis pulled me in to do the Office Space Entitled with him when Mike Judd and them come by and him and his boy are talking to each other and they sound just like Beavis and Butthead while they're talking like, hey, what are you doing? I don't like it. I like it. I'm just like, what the? You know what I'm saying? So I've been there doing entitled songs, but you show up at the end of the movie. With doing the films, it was like I was there from script. So I had to understand what's in the script, what needs to get done, what's the process. And like I said, the three people that were in the music department, Bob Bowen, Paul Bruchek, Aaron Scully, they were professionals at doing that stuff, and they taught me this is what needs to happen. This is how we're going to go about hiring a composer. This is how we're going to do all the pieces. So up to the point where, when I worked on the Billie Holiday movie with Lee Daniels, and I was doing that, it was more than it was nothing. It was more like I understood the process maybe better than Lee did because he'd done TV for it, but I saw what needed to happen, and I was able to accommodate as a composer being hired what needed to go on. You know what I'm saying? And that was important, the same way that I was able to compose, better productions because my dad was a promotions person. I didn't say that. My dad was a promotions person, and then he also ran labels and everything else. So I understood what the DJ wants. I understand what the label and I was in marketing meetings when my dad worked at Arista.
How old were you?
7, 8, 9.
What? Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
He had a head start, man, on us.
You're like Kobe Bryant. Like his dad played, so you saw what it was to be a pro.
Definitely. I mean, it was all of that, and then I guess like Kobe in another way that Kobe was still practicing up until he couldn't practice no more. And I'm still up at 5 a.m. figuring out the plots and seeing where I can kind of grow the business and everything that my dad showed me. I sat down and figured out how to multiply it, exponentially. You know what I'm saying? Like just really going in with it. And I think that's really where it's at. But understanding that, and that's we up to 35 now. I ain't get to 40 yet. So 35.
I'm trying to go back to 8.
Right? So 35 was, all right, cool. Now we working in the films. I'm recording these orchestras now because I work with Lalo Schifrin. Boom, that ends up back in songs. So big up Miss Pam. I was working on going to Prague because they said I can get cheap orchestras there to record on my own. And I just started working on Jasmine Sullivan's album. We had done our first sessions. We did Lions, Tigers, and Bears, Live a Lie. And then there's a song that's on Nas's album. There's a war on the street tonight that Keon Bryce sang. Peter Edge had wanted Jasmine to cover it, which she did. But she did it just to appease him. But I felt like, I worked with her when she was on Jive, big up Toy Green. back in the days. So I was like, let's figure out what we can do. And when we did that, the ideas was like, no, Jazz is a better writer than anybody you can have come in. Peter initially wanted Harold Lilly to come in. Harold's my boy, big up Harold.
Big up
but
Harold Lilly.
When it comes down to it, Jazz needed to find herself, and that's what my thing was. Like I was like, nah,
you're really good at that.
That's what I did with Nas. That's what I did with Amy Winehouse. That's what I did with the Fugees. Nas in a different way, just because he could just say anything to me and I understand what he was saying without him actually saying it, because we had the same references. But I was on my way to Prague and I just laid down a reference. She had the ideas for Bust Your Windows and Lions Tigers previously, but I never heard it. She just sang a little bit to me. I put up a click. I started playing what I thought it could be. And then I asked her mom. I remember we was in Quad Studios in New York when I was about to fly to Europe to record the orchestras. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to put orchestra on this. But if you heard the orchestra on this, what would you think? And her mom was sitting there. She said, maybe a tango. Boom. So that's Badman Waltz on my Prognosis album, that I now created a tango that fit underneath the song Bust Your Windows. And, she was a new artist for J Records at the time. It's not like they would have wanted to pay for this 63-piece orchestra that I utilized and the arrangements and everything. I went beyond, but I believed good people, good music. You know what I'm saying? And that's all it came down to. I believe that there was some things with her. So I ended up recording things and then just included it in her songs as samples. And
so
that became
pretty much sample your own body of work.
Exactly, because I understood from my pops being in the business and what we had to do. Like, I remix a record, and then my remix ain't got nothing to do with the original. I create a new body of work, new vocals, everything. But somebody might sample it, but because it had the same publishers as the old song, just through title, then somebody else is getting paid off of my writing. So it was like, oh, words. So guess what? I give you this track, but you don't own the master of it. I own the master of it. And it's a business practice I practice until today, that now as a sample owner, as a repertoire owner, as an IP owner, I'm able to say, well, look, I'm going to include this in my production for Jasmine. But it was important for them to also acknowledge they didn't pay for this. I did.
So that's like a double dip. So you...
But it wasn't a double dip because I didn't collect sample fees on those songs. It was just more or less them having to acknowledge that they didn't own it. And then as it turns into, it's there. Now, because I was getting paid as a producer, but a lot of times now, like I don't want to get paid as a producer anymore. That's not it. You know what I'm saying? I understand the business better. Just pay me as an option. Or just sample me and go forward. And,
right.
Actually, Salaam is retired. You can hire these other people that produce around him. You know what I'm saying? And let this be what it is, because it's just creating what I want to do. If people look at the 1,000 beats they have in their hard drives as masters instead of looking at them as demos, then you realize
you own that.
You own it. It can be exploited the way it needs to. And then later on, if somebody wants to make a record, that's cool, but I still own my time, my creativity.
Before you go there, I want to this, and for anybody that's listening and that's you can go on to Salaam Remi and listen to this Prague album, because it's one of the projects. Salaam told me about it a couple of years ago. I'm like, why was I late to it? And I listened to it a lot. It's because you'll catch the certain songs he's making reference to about sampling.
Yeah, Prognosis. It became Queen's Story, The Black Bond. I just took a bunch of beats I had and ideas I had and went out there and recorded full orchestras on it.
So it's amazing.
If music producers are watching right now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm understanding, or hopefully I'm understanding this correctly. You went to Prague and you build a catalog of your own music. Like, oh, hey, I want you to do this, this, and this because it's cheaper over there. Then you get to come back, and some of the songs go on Jasmine. Some of the songs go on Nas. But the library of music that you created over there, you own. So now it's like, let's not go around selling the mixtapes or the song or the tracks that you have. Sample the body of work of music that I've created, and you can make way more. I'm guessing way more money off of that.
I mean, you can make more money, and then also, once again, there's different currencies. Some of it is actually the money you get for doing it, and some of it is the time. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, it's just you go and you walk in the same block. How many packages you holding?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Hustling thoughts. You making one trip hustling. how many packages you got on that same trip. So it's the same idea for me. And just in general, it was a thing that, the Grammys had to switch a rule around. I guess they damn near had a Salaam rule because those songs were nominated for Grammys. And they were like, well, it includes a sample. But it's like, no, it's a sample of himself. Ooh. And it wasn't, both of those got R&B Song of the Year nominations. But in those nominations, they had to understand that I was basically just not letting Sony own all of my work that they didn't pay for. Damn. You know what I'm saying? And then going forward, like I said, it's a beautiful life when you could just get up and create. So
beautiful
when
thing.
you create and you have your different aspects of it, and you're not in a position where you need that, it's like being able to open up. But that was just that period. We still didn't get to 40 yet. So spinning back through all that stuff.
It's a bar.
It's a very smart young man. I was going to say that. 35,
like I said, I had the film stuff going. Sex and the City 1 says Sex and the City 2. And then 2011, Amy Winehouse passes. I met Amy, as I mentioned, 13 days after my 30th birthday. She passed before my 40th.
Damn.
And for me,
you put it in that perspective.
Yeah, for me, it was like, it cooked me. It was just like somebody came in and became their own iconic person. But it happened in between two milestones in my life. And for me, I felt like I didn't really want to make records anymore. You know what I'm saying? I remember going back and getting certain stuff done, and Nas was finishing the what do you call it out? The Life is Good album.
One of my favorite Nas.
And I was like, I'm done, son. I'm at peace. Like, I don't need to make any more records. Like, like that's it. Like, just looking at that aspect, it just hit me. And I met her. Yeah. And that whole spin of my mom and this and that, and then there was another woman that was close to me in a different way, and then they came and they were gone. And I was in London. I was on my way to the house. I didn't go. It was basically like I was in London. We were supposed to go to a wedding on Sunday.
You were already out there.
I was there. We were supposed to go to Nick Shemansky, who, if you look at the documentary, was always like her first manager. So we were supposed to go to Nicky's wedding. And it was on a Sunday, and I got there on a Thursday, and I was like, what's going on? He's like, yo, I was talking to security. He's like, man, I could hear in the background. I was like, what's going on? It's like, oh, she's drunk. She's mad at somebody. She was mad at one of her friends, basically. And she had stopped drinking for 10 days prior to that, but she started drinking, whatever it was. And then I was like, all right, you know what? I ain't going to come today. I'm going to wait till Saturday, the night where I sit with her all day on Saturday and make sure she good.
She good.
Before we go to the wedding on Sunday at Solutions House, because Nick Shemansky is Solutions' nephew. Oh. So we were going there, and, Uncle Solution, know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. Right.
Lucian Grange.
Right. So once we were going there, I was like, I'm coming sit with her on Saturday. And then Saturday, I was about to pick up some jerk chicken and go over to the crib. Yeah. And then I was like, yo, yeah, I'm coming over with some food. Let me know if y'all want anything. And he called me back and said she passed. Damn. That Friday night.
Oh, no.
So
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
That cooked me just as far as me being right there. I could have went the Thursday or the Friday, but I was waiting to the Saturday, and that happened. And still ended up going to the wedding because I talked to him, and I was just like, just like my mom passing, it was one of those situations where you flew everyone in, your wife is there, people flew from Australia, all over the world to go to this wedding, so now it still had to happen. And when I was sitting there, had a conversation with Solution at the wedding. At the wedding. It's so crazy because I wanted to say at the funeral, but at the wedding, at this house,
it had have a crazy vibe.
And then I had a suit already. I just took the red tie off and put the black tie on. The funeral was on Tuesday, so I was just out. So
you went from a wedding you was already out there for, then you had to stay for a funeral
because they were burying her within 3 days of her passing. You know what what I'm saying? It's part of the Jewish faith.
So,
So,
yeah.
So it was a turn that happened. So I ended up staying 2 more days and going to the funeral.
Oh man.
And it was just like you went for an up and then boom, hitting the gut. So when that happened, Solutions like, you in LA ever? And I was like, yeah. He's like, come see me when you're in LA. So I sat down and talked to him, and he was like, yo, what are the labels, things that you could work on, or different people? And at that time, Barry Weiss had just went to UMG. And, Barry and my dad go back. My dad was promotions for, what was he promotions for? He was promotions for Arista when Job first started coming through there. So Flock of Seagulls, Billy Ocean, Mr. The Rap Attacks, the Jive Rhythm Tracks, all the stuff that came through. My dad was the person who was working back and forth.
So you saw all those artists come through.
My dad was a Northeast Regional. You know what I'm saying? So he was that guy for that period of time, go up to Mr. Magic, go up to different things, everything else. But back to the Solutions conversation, he was like, what do you think about Jimmy? And I was like, well, Jimmy, it was great, but kind of what I do, the things I worked on in Europe, Miss Dynamite, Jimmy cooks on 10, Black Eyed Peas, Fergie, like the big records, like he cooks, and it's just like Hollywood, it's huge. I kind of got another way with music. My stuff kind of falls off the bone, slow cook it. And you might not see it if you're looking for the biggest thing, but it's the realest thing. So I was like, that's not it. And he's like, you know what? Stick close to Barry Weiss. He loves you. And Barry, when I was at, doing stuff with Sony, Jasmine, Miguel, all that stuff fell into Barry's watch. And he's like, and your dad. Boom. So every time he see me, how's your dad? So he saw me as an extension of my father, which was a great thing to have a father who had a good rep with certain people. So when they see me, I inherited the benevolence of whatever he might have done positive with them. And they gave me back that love. But he wanted me to work at Republic. That didn't work out. The Republic guys wasn't, it just didn't gel with me and them. But I was like, yo, I can't do any work at Sony, because I'm about to go to Universal, as far as I'm concerned. But Mr. Doug Morris had just gotten to Sony, and
there you go.
And Peter Edge was just like, yo, what you mean I'm not going to be able to do Jasmine and Miguel? And me and Peter Edge been rolling since Bush Babies, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, wow. I used to work on Bush Babies, man.
Exactly. So, I just can't stand it on the Bush Babies Ambushed album, as well as Remember We remix. I did those things with Peter Edge from then, so our working relationship is it's 30 years old at this point. But at the end of the day, he was like, Dag. So he took me up to meet Mr. Doug Morris. Doug Morris was like, I like what you're doing, and then he was able to figure out something in one swoop that was letting me know he wanted me to be there and he wanted me to support that, and not the Solution, because I haven't had a conversation with him. He was definitely there, but the way that the company was flowing,
right,
I was just like, you know what? If I can work with Doug Morris, who basically Solution learned certain things from, and every other CEO, and Doug Morris at that point was only going to have a certain amount of years. Well, I took 5 years from 2012 to 2017 and learned what a CEO was going to learn, get the training of a CEO in the music business. And what many of the CEOs in the music business directly got it from this person, some infinite wisdom. And that was, as Mello Winter would say, Doug Morris University. And that was a blessing for me. But I got that at 40. So that was my 40th. Boom, I'm stepping back. I got my label. I'm able to figure out stuff. And I got some wins and I got some losses. And I had to balance that all out and learn what it was. But it also taught me where I am as a creator into being the businessman at that level and where it's going to go. So then that was those things. So that's 40 to 45. Louder Than Life Records, Sony reporting, EVP of production and A&R reporting to Doug Morris only.
Sheesh.
Top dog.
Only to Doug Morris. And then our contracts timed out the same day. Boom.
When he left, you left.
I was gone.
Did you know? Were you like,
No, because I was going to leave the year before.
Okay.
And he kind of was like, well, maybe you want to take this next year, but it just depends. And I just did it. And he's like, you could talk to Rob, and Rob's off. And the best thing about me being at Sony was definitely, I was taking a lot of pointers from what Dion No ID was going through, what Ethiopia were going through as heads of labels, and then Dion also having RDM as his imprint.
Yep.
Doing that, I was taking. My office was right next to Rob Stringer's, now the COOs, the CFO at that time, the head of commerce, Dennis Cooker, Julie Swidler, who is like the ace who really taught me a whole lot, and the LA Reid's office was on that floor. and then Doug's and Mellow Winters. So that was the water cooler. So what I was understanding about the macro side of the music business and where they were going with it and where it really lied. And, I was given enough rope to tie up a cow or to hang myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It depends on which way it goes. And I learned a lot. And then ultimately, some of the gems I got was, hey, just find a couple singles. You got some good albums. It might not land right. And one of the singles I signed was Omi's Cheerleaders, which ended up being a huge global smash and did billions of streams. But then I also saw where it worked, and I also saw where it didn't work. So I just looked at the whole situation, and that was a great lesson for me. And then when it was time for me to figure out, okay, 45, what are you doing? 5-year plan to 50. I was like, you know what? Bet on me.
That's what me and Q. That's our motto. We bet on ourselves, dog.
That was it. So at that minute there, it was like bet on me. And then by the time I'm 50 with it, I can walk up to the register and figure out what my life's work. Because I've been my first cut since I was 14. I've been signed to ASCAP. So now, what does this 14 to 50 catalog look like? What does this aspect look like? And what does this business look like? And then do I want to do that, or do I want to do something else? Because I dedicated so much of my energy and time into music and the music business that I wasn't sure what else I could do. You know what I'm saying? Fully. So it just gave me a minute to really focus on my IP. And at that time, I was like, I'm not doing public appearances, and I'm not doing any merch. You know what I'm saying? Those are two buckets I'm not doing. So I started to do it.
Why not public appearances? I guess we can understand that, but why not merch?
I just hadn't done it. I hadn't even thought about it and really moved it. So then that's where the Do It For The Culture album cover, and that's what I was putting out a bunch of songs calling it Do It For The Culture, Come Through and Chill, putting out 50 songs, Champagne Flutes, the group I had no Ponte.
Champagne Flutes is a cold piece.
It's a whole nother thing. Big up Terry Walker in London. You know what I'm saying? But just in general, just putting out a lot of music. And then to Do It For The Culture, now being on shirts, actually started turning into my merch, and then turned into an art show. I did an Art Basel for 2 years and everything else, and growing into that. We did Red Bull Culture Clash, won that in Jamaica, you know what I'm saying, before the pandemic, just doing different things. And then I started doing some adjunct professor stuff for songwriting class at Miami University at the David Ford School of Music. Big ups, Professor Elson.
Are you still doing that?
I did it before the pandemic. I did 1 or 2 classes after the pandemic, but I didn't really feel songwriting class on Zoom. It just didn't click for me. But that was what I stepped into. And then now here I am at 50. And, the last 2 years in the pandemic taught us a lot. It taught me that, I had a lot of people who had to, around me, the close friends, that had to sit down for 10 years plus, and they had to do different things. And what I learned from them is, during that time, it's either you can grow and figure out more about yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually, and then you also could figure out how you want to contribute to the world and what you want to do. And I looked at this couple of years of being inside, I took the time, the racial energy of 2020, it got to me, you know what I'm saying? We was already having a tough time with everybody passing back to back every week.
Right.
It was taking me out. I'd already declared after, Mother's Day was already rough for me anyway, because I was born on Mother's Day, and then my mom passed on my birthday. But then on Mother's Day of 2020, Betty Wright passed, and that weekend Andre Harrell and Little Richard had passed, and I was just like, my birthday was coming up. I was like, listen, I'm not in 2020 anymore. I'm in year 48. I declared that. And then by Memorial Day, the George Floyd situation happens. Already tight about the Ahmaud Arbery situation, and it was like a breaking point for me. And the music that I started creating, that I was just hoping, we'd be out by the summertime, we can get back to it. Psych.
Boom.
You know what I'm saying? I ended up creating what was Black on Purpose. And Black on Purpose, no matter how many different boardrooms I might have been the guy he's all right, let him in, and everything else, when they said, who's the big guy outside of the store, get him. That's Eric Garner, that's George Floyd, and it could just as easily be me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, when somebody look at me, I'm a big black man. Before my accomplishments, and I got pulled over and showed them my ID and my Sony card that said EVP or whatever it was. Wow. I still got a ticket for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Outside the building, because the mindset was just always like, "Who are you, big black man?" And I really felt that, so I made my album Black on Purpose as my ID. You know what I'm saying? And if you didn't hear anything else I ever did, listen to this. Now you're going to know who I am. You know what I'm saying? Unprovoked. I was able to talk to a lot of artists, and it was pandemic, so we was shooting videos, everything, on phones. You know, is it because I'm black? I got everybody to lay on the floor and send me stuff. We created it all, and big up Tatiana for trooping it out with me. But we made a whole album worth of stuff without leaving the space, without going anywhere, and really editing together something. You know, it's at the beginning of the pandemic. Big up Momo Fresh. We had emojis. And that was a whole nother thing that was just, I didn't know what it was, but I was taught that, you know, these things are there. And back to the Noah's Ark aspect of all the equipment in my studio. The Noah's Ark aspect at this point was that I was able to create a home in a space that I could spend 2 years in and not go around anywhere else and be as productive as I am safe. And happy to be where I am. So now as I'm arriving at 50, it's like, wow, where are we? Well, I plan to move to an island the way my dad did at 50, where he went and managed, you know, the Rupees and the Allison Hines and different things. But now I'm moving to the metaverse. And at this point, you know, Nostalgia Future Tech is my company, NFT platform launch space that I'm doing things. And then I got a couple other companies attached to
NFT. Nostalgia, Future Tech.
Nostalgia, Future Tech is where we are.
That's why you see, you feel me?
You know what I'm saying?
So he's flipping that.
So we put all the pieces together, and, you know, at this time, we're up past beta, and it's just a beautiful thing because I sat down and looked at everything that I have done and everything that it is. And, you know, my goal is to help a lot of creators become millionaires. You know what I'm saying? And make hundreds of them out of just being able to be open door policy. We're just making sure people are doing it for the right reasons.
Financial freedom.
Yeah. Could we, I mean, have you talked about you as an artist, like artwork?
Visuals.
Nah, I mean, not at all, actually. So for me.
I'm just sorry, because you took us around the compound and we seen some amazing pieces of art. And
you've done art galleries.
I had them, but that was all stuff that I purchased. Like that was me collecting and doing the art gallery during Art Basel and showing the stuff that I collected.
But selling his merch too, though.
But selling my merch because, you know, it get a little cold. People be out here like, nah, it's nice. It's nice. We had white folk walk around with everybody black hoodies. You know what I'm saying? When
they pull up and buy the hoodie and go outside. Because
they couldn't wait. They didn't care what it said. When it got cold and they was like, nah, you need a T-shirt. It's Miami. Then I know them days in December. It dropped down under that 50 degrees. It's like LA. You're like, wait a minute. What happened? So you need that hoodie. But just in general, with the art stuff, December 28th, I was talking to a friend of mine who's an artist, and I was just like, yo, Dag, I think I should get a couple things because I was also vibing off of how people were responding to the Betty Wright video that I directed and started, where we did Strange Fruit over in a gospel way, but it was all purple, and we were able to make that work. And just I had to figure out creative vision for my project and where it was going to go, and myself and then Tatiana was in the bubble with me, Tatiana Crooks, and made it all work. But within doing that, I was like, you know what, I should try something because I never felt like I was good at art. I don't got a steady hand, whatever it was. And I went and bought some stuff. He's like, yeah, you should. And then I just started watching YouTube and vibed out. And next thing you know, a year later, I got like 60, 70 pieces of art that, have gone into many different realms that are, a lot of them are mixed media art and movement, but it's stuff that I would have paid 10, 15, 20 grand for if I saw it at Art Basel myself. But also I'm able to make a dope piece of Yellow Man. I'm able to make a dope piece of Horsemouth. I'm able to make Just Ice, like people that I really respect and that I love.
Some of your favorites.
You know what I'm saying? My favorites. And it's also about culture, in the same way that my Instagram plays the records that if you had to beat it and know that was a jam. And, I don't play with somebody else like I play what I like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so he always posts some real classic, And
that energy, so that same energy is basically what I've done creatively with the art, but it's also for the purpose of, I want to find a way to get those people paid and find ways, to me, streaming is, the NFTs are like streaming for name and likeness. So you don't have to have control of your record deal or your publishing deal administration-wise to have control of your image or have an image that works for you. A selfie you took in 1965 might be an ill picture that somebody really wants. Now there's a digital way for you to get paid in crypto. And crypto is not a dollar. Crypto is, it's ultimately a stock in something that's growing. It can go down, but it also can go up. And now raise the value in perpetuity for what you're doing. And anytime somebody approaches that, and I'd already been trying to figure out with all the cassettes I have, of all the beats I've ever made, like how do I register them and put a name on them and give them a serial number and make it so that if anybody else crosses that line, they got to pay. Oh, perfect. NFTs. You know what I'm saying? My whole life can be there. And then perpetuity, it can go to whatever good I want to do. You know, I love the way the Godfather of Soul made it so that, you know, a lot of the James Brown royalties get paid into kids from South Carolina being able to go to college. And how long James Brown going to play? Well, whenever it does play, somebody's getting an opportunity. And that's just, you know, planting a good tree. And I planted a lot of trees during the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? That was another thing I picked up on. And I was just like, yo, the nature is going to take over the stone anyway. Whatever we build, whatever man builds, nature's going to take it over. It don't make a difference. So guess what? There's going to be a food jungle where I was at. You know what I'm saying? And somebody going to walk through there and eat, whether it's an animal or human, whatever. It's going to be something happening. It's going to continue to keep turning over. And that's just what it comes down to. How many times can you plant a positive seed that's going to grow to people that you don't even know benefit from it? And that's what my whole career has been. When I look back at it, it's been people that I don't even know benefiting, whether they felt good from the music, which is a currency, or they felt good from the artist that was now able to do something for them, hire, work with them. It's just been paying it forward as much as I could. More than I put in, more than I took out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I worked for years and paid my employees and different people more than I paid myself.
Because you're doing right by people.
Always.
Let me ask you, since you're talking about planting seeds, go back to your younger Salaam Remi. How important is Funkmaster Flex to you?
Flex is a core. So basically what happens is my dad, as I mentioned, you know, he worked at Arista. First, boom, he's in the band with my uncle. They're doing different things. He goes and he's doing Broadway, Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, Dream Girls, different things like that. He's also working, doing different records with people. He works on disco album, Tana Gardner, worked at Body LP, got a bunch of stuff. A guy named Kenton Nix got his first, he was his first arranger, as Kenton would say to me. There's a leftover track called, it was just an instrumental, that became Heartbeat, but that my dad was credited on that song, but he's credited on the album as arranger.
A Heartbeat?
Summer of 79, boom, we're in Monaco. That's where the Champagne Flutes album title comes from, Monaco 79. But anyhow, that happens. But he does many different things, and he kind of gets the raw end of the deal. So my dad, as a grown man going into 1980.
So he didn't get a chance to really eat off the Heartbeat?
Nah, not at all. He's not even credited on, because he wasn't there when that version was recorded. But anyhow, that was that. So bottom line, it was a demo that he had worked on. He arranged this up before they got flipped. So basically what ends up happening is he goes as a grown man as an intern into Arista in 1980. He's 30 years old. You know, 30-year-old intern.
Yeah, it's like you.
Yeah, so where you going, basically? But he'd been a musician in there, but he really had that stuff on his plate. So when he goes in and does that, and I know you asked me about Flex, but it's 10 years off the road, but it's important.
Yeah, I feel you.
So he does that, and then he becomes an intern, and then they're like, Dad, you making this stuff happen. He ends up being the first person to take Dougie Fresh into the studio because he's up in Harlem, and he's seeing what the cats are doing, and then he decides, yo, I'm going to make a record. You know, Sly and Robbie were going in and out of New York doing stuff. So then he puts Dougie Fresh, Spoonie G, and a cat named Spivey on a version of Pass the Buddha on the left-hand side, a flip of the Pass the Dutchie that Sly and Robbie played the drum track on for him. So I was there in that session, on Dougie's first session ever, and watching it. Dougie goes, 82, 83, does his entertainment. Right. Human Beatbox keeps growing. My dad's now, working promotions, and I'm not living with him. I'm living with my mom in Queens, but he's working promotions at the label and going to the studio trying to cut songs and just moving back and forth. He goes from Arista to eventually going to Polygram, and then eventually, he brought Gwen Guthrie in there with the Ain't Nothing Going On but the different stuff. Yeah. But he's promotion. You got to get out the A&R room because you promotion. You ain't supposed to be even touching this stuff. Boom. You know what I'm saying?
We make the record, you go promote.
Yeah. Exactly. But he was a music man, so he was already doing what he did on so many levels. And then eventually he's like, you know what? I'm up out of here. I got enough other stuff going on. But now he gets a label deal. His label deal, he signs 2 artists, Palm Tree Records. and he has Chuck Chill Out and Cool Chip, and MC Rel. MC Rel's from Philly. He has This Is the Life of an Entertainer.
Yeah.
And, you know, a few other records. You know, MC Rel and the House Rockers, that's what it was. And then Chuck Chill Out and Cool Chip. Rhythm is the Master, I'm Just a Slave. Underneath Chuck Chill Out is a group called Deuces Wild, the Overlord Centipede, Tito Rest in Peace, Hellraiser Ricochet.
So you seen all this firsthand?
Yeah. The Hellraiser Ricochet, who later becomes 9-M, and then the DJ, Funkmaster. Funkmaster with the Flex is what he said. Cool Chip would always go, Funkmaster Flex. He would leave out the with the, and that's where Funkmaster Flex is born.
Wow.
So 89, I'm coming into a space where Flex basically is trying to get on as a DJ. He's driving Chuck around, doing whatever it was. Flex had 98s. And then I'm 17. My dad's like, take Salaam with you. So then now when Chuck ends up going from KISS to go to BLS, they're using my turntables.
Yeah, that's yours.
So I'm carrying my 12-inch because Marley Marl was super G. Marley Marl would spin on the two turntables next to each other on the board and be mixing and blending on the actual, you know, regular board, fading, transforming everything with the regular equipment. It's almost like when people go to
At the radio station.
At the radio station.
So he just has a fader.
On the board.
With the regular faders, like the 1980s faders on or whatever it is, Marley is doing his blends and everything else right live on turntables, but with no 1200s. You know, he had a little pitch thing on there, but wasn't crazy, but he was doing all, he had no mixer, bottom line. So they was like, yo, what we gonna do with this? Yo, we gotta bring some 1200s up here. So they're taking my turntables, I'm carrying them. My dad's like, well, Chuck, you gotta get on the mic now. My pops was tight with Frankie Crocker from all his promotion days. So then Frankie Crocker is like, no, Chuck, you got to talk, and then who's going to DJ? Let Flex DJ. So there's born Funkmaster Flex on the 1 and 2s. I'm Chuck Chill Out. The overseer Shalom's in the house. Boom. And there it goes. I'm carrying the records. I'm writing down the songs, giving them to Chuck. So I'm watching what Flex is playing, write down the song, give it to Chuck every mic break.
He says what it is.
He says what it is.
Such and such and such.
So I'm that person. Like I'm sitting
You're
there.
like the intern.
I'm the intern. You know what I'm saying? And granted, 89, 90, now I'm starting to get my producing stripes. Because then in the back of BLS, Bobby Condas is Bugsy's the music director. Bobby Condas is Bugsy's assistant. I'm going back there taking all Hal Jackson's records, going through whatever Marley didn't know was a break, getting all the samples, like boom. So Bugsy know me since I was younger, since he was in Philly and he was in New York.
Right.
So I'm just in the mix. But I'm 17, 18. I'm going to college for business management because I got that numbers brain. I know where everything's at.
You were still DJing and being around the culture.
And I wasn't necessarily DJing. I had 2 crates of records. So then in between all of that, Marley Marl was friends with my dad because, you know, he's promotion. So he know everybody well.
And Marley Marl's a big deal.
And my pops had bought.
Juice Crew.
My pops had built stuff out where he had like a 16-track board and maybe Marley had an 8-track. So he sold Marley his 16-track. And then that's that. You know, they kept. He was basically upgrading his equipment. Then he sold his older one. So him and Marley had a friendship and whatever it was. They were vibing. And they was cool dudes. And then, you know, Marley liked that good bud. My pops was getting that good bud. Probably was pinching a little bit out of it and give Marley the rest. But whatever it was, they had it. So when Marley came by and I saw that he let Tragedy on Tragedy's Intelligent Hoodlum album, he let Large Professor and Joe Fatal co-produce Game Type.
I remember that. Joe Fatal. Yeah, shout out to
Joe Fatal and Lost Professor, 2 of them, you know, which live at the barbecue crew, right? So I saw that. So I was like, yo, Marley, can I get some, what you working on? He said, Craig G. So I was like, can I get some co-production on Craig G? Marley comes down to my room. I got 2 creative records. I play him some beats. He's like, yo, put on a cassette for me. He went and basically, you know, played it for Craig. He's like, yo, Craig, like a few of them. Grab your discs and your MMT8. You know, my little situation. I still got the cassette, I still got all that. Then he came pick me up. He had just done Product of the Environment remix for Third Base. I went up to his crib in Spring Valley and I watched Marley Marl take my bedroom beats and make them into Marley Marl productions.
One idea from you, go big.
But he filled it out. He added stuff. He flipped the 808. He sped it up a little bit. But I understood what he did. There's not a day in my production life that I don't reference something that I caught off of that day and a half of sitting there watching Marley take my ideas and make them into records.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's to this day, that's something I always got to pop up on. How does this turn into a record? And then back to Flex. Now me and Flex are coming up. Basically Chuck Chillout had a lot of opportunity. He was an artist. He got to remix How to Kill a Radio Consultant from Public Enemy. Yo, Salaam, I'm doing this remix. You want flips for the beat? Yeah, turn it up. Yeah, make it crazy. So Chuck is who he is. Believe that. He's a full-on character. He's the guy who will play ESTs from the Giddy Up for an hour if he felt like that. You know what I'm saying? That's why I said it for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But basically, he would turn around and make all that stuff happen. And then Flex ended up being the DJ arm of what Chuck's potential could have been, because he sat down and had relationships. And then I ended up being almost the production arm of what Chuck potentially was. And the two of us came up together, but we basically was seeds out of the same pod. Flex wasn't happening.
That's crazy.
I wasn't happening.
Insanity.
There was nobody else but me and him in the car. Nobody else. So then now when the BLS thing is over, Ray pulls him back in the Kiss. Now when Flex is going in the clubs, he's in red zone. He wants to get from the back to the front. He's letting Jessica Rosenblum, Stressica manage him. Puff's daddy's house, whatever's going on. I'm in the booth with Flex because why? He's used to having me write down the record, see what's going on, his other ears. When he finally gets to Hot 97, because he's still keeping the motto. I'll play the club for $100. I don't care. He wants to be in the spot, the franchise, always present. So Flex is tenacious. We be at the club till 4 a.m. He calling me back 6:30 with a new DJ routine. This is how it has to go. I'm like, yo, didn't you just get home? Like, wow. Yeah, but then I was on it too. We were both beasting because he's like, yo, I got to be in hip hop, and you was downtown. I'm in your basement trying to figure out what we gonna do now. What's happening? Yo, can I go with you? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm like, can I go with you? And he's like, yo, can I go with you somewhere? He gets a job at Profile Records. We end up remixing King's Son together, whatever it is. But Flex just want to be in the mix. So he's just that tenacious to get into it. And when he gets to Hot 97, now from staying club heavy,
right
now I end up becoming, yo, Salaam, can you write down these actual song names? Can you come up there and listen? So I'm doing what I did at BLS. I listened to the other station. Yo, they had commercial. Play something crazy. Play the Cypress Hill. Like, that was our thing. We understood when we was in a competing radio situation. Damn. When every time they go left, we go up. And then we know at one commercial break, you can catch somebody to turn over, and they ain't going to move if you up them, right?
Catch, yeah.
Ride the wave. So DJ-wise, club-wise, everything else, I got my DJ education. Mm-hmm. And then they have a board op at the station.
Yeah.
And the board op is Angie Martinez.
Come on, man.
So then now Angie's there. She's running the boards. I'm right there with Flex. It's like, yo, his safety net. What? And then it's like, yo, Salaam, what's up? The overseer Salaam's in the house. And that's what that became. Jeff Robinson still calls me the overseer to this day. Oh. But basically, Flex is doing what he's doing from ground zero of Hot 97 being a dance station coming in. They like, first they had people on with him. There's like no person. And then he's like, yo, Angie, you good? Yeah, I'm good, Flex. So then Angie gets a voice. She gets to crack the mic. Because why? Because Flex spoke to her. She got an answer, don't she? Boom. Now Angie gets an overnight.
Hilarious.
And now Hot 97 is kicking in. Now they start trying to bring in other people around it and surround it. But ultimately it was Flex, it was Angie, and I was the third person that was there.
Oh, my God.
And in the meantime, this is 93 going into 94, so I'm producing records. I have Fugees, Nappy Heads, you know what I'm saying? And Angie's like, yo, I told my program director I like that song or whatever. So these things are happening because it's not only my influence and my accessibility, I also understand what works for the DJ in the club and at the radio, especially on the Northeast Energy. Because I was there. I was in it. I was one of them. We all pop open the manila envelopes together on a Friday. I was with Bobby Condas in the clubs while we was producing Mac Daddy. And then we would go to the club and then we would literally produce. Like, we were all literally in it together. So I am an old school 80s cat, just a little brother of one, but that was always in it. And at the same time, I am the 90s cat, the 90s DJ, you know what I'm saying? I was at Hot before all the people that were there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So this is just for me. That's the root of it. And a lot of people didn't realize that until Angie had her book, which was there. And then, you know, what happened during that time, and she also bigged up Here Comes a Hot Stepper. And it's like, yo, this is it. And, you know, my dad also now has his independent promotion company So they got the box in Houston,
Yeah.
and then
Videos.
no,
Oh, the radio station box. I'm sorry.
he had to deal with the box. So my dad was the indie for the box too.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was. And then and calling up on the phone lines, like when you calling to talk to somebody. So he was the indie to make that all happen. But also,
So he was working some of your records?
well, yeah, a lot of the stuff that I was doing that was reggae and hip hop. So
Let's talk about that. That's I want to.
the reggae hip hop things. What I was going to tell you was what happens is, so I'm doing all the reggae and hip hop. You know, Vivian Scott Chu, who gave me my first remix. My dad had helped her come from ASCAP to get the A&R job at Mercury. She did the deal for Chuck Chill Out and MC Val. Did the production deal with my dad. She also signed Leotis Claiborne, who was just known as Leotis. He had a record called Ooh Child. My dad had produced it. He was like, you think Salaam could do a remix, put some of them beats underneath it like he be doing? I put the beat underneath it. That's my first remix, 1989, fresh out of high school. 17.
And which one is that?
It's Ooh Child by Leotis. You know what I'm saying?
So did you merge the hip hop and reggae?
It wasn't even reggae on that. I just threw a beat underneath his R&B record. But then Vivian Scott Chu leaves Mercury and goes to Sony, to Epic. And then she signs Shabba Ranks. She signs Patra. She signs Little Vicious. So my first plaque, which is over here by the bathroom, is Patra. Think her first single ever. I produced that and remixed it off of Patra's Queen of the Pack album.
I mean, Patra was the first. Y'all look at Meg Thee Stallion. Y'all look at Lil' Kim and
She was about that life.
Nicki. We love bruh.
Patra. So that was that element of it.
Because it was a time when it was just the reggae hip hop was ringing off.
Yeah.
And then there was two sides that came from. So number one was Bobby Condos was the DJ, which what I loved about Bobby is that he could play looking at the front door, back up, go into Life is What You Make Up, spin that back and go into Crystal Waters, Gypsy, and it would be seamless. He could do a lunch mix that touched house, reggae, and dance music, and house, reggae, dance music, and hip hop in one go, and you didn't feel like you were in a foreign space. You just felt like you were in New York, a melting pot. So Bobby was getting remixes, doing stuff, and I started going to the studio with him. And what I would do is every time we use something for a hip hop record, Mac Daddy, Biz used for Toilet Stool Rap.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, word. Oh, and then those drums. Oh, D-Nice used it for Comes on the Table. Oh, and then the dun 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 dun. Somebody else was like, yo, something else got to happen. So I was like, yo, if those things was popping, then I'm gonna put that in the reggae pile. So now when I go to the studio with Bobby, I'm cashing in. He pay me, and I'm like, oh, what you need? Okay, here's all the loops that's been used because hip hop wanted exclusive loops. And I'm reusing all of the loops for reggae. So now I became reggae hip hop person. All I have to say, I've done some demos on Iny Kamosi, linked through David Sonnenberg, who I went on to have, he's the one that had the Fugees, but he knew me through the Iny Kamosi situation. I remixed it at some point when it was on a compilation album because I was doing so much work between the Super Cats with Bobby, and then anything that was on Columbia, Mad Cobra, all that stuff. And I was in Sony taking all the reggae hip hop remix checks. You got a single, send it to me. I'm gonna figure out.
That's when remixes was a big deal to have.
And my pops' Feet to the Street company is gonna,
run it.
Going to turn around and do the promotions. We had people in 10 markets. Steve Rifkin would say that my pops is the person who taught him how to work records.
I never knew that, bro.
If you ask him, that's what he'll say. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Yeah. If you ask him about my pops or vice versa, however way it comes up. But that's what he
told me. You had the advantage though.
I was in the home court, understood it. Differently from you having to go and figure it out.
I had to figure it out. No one in my family.
I was in there, but then when I switched, it was there. But what I was going to say was that when it was time to remix Iny Kamosi's "Here Come the Hot Stepper," what track popped in my head and my brain was Heartbeat. So
that's what I'm saying. That's when you said it earlier. I'm like, there's a connection.
So when I sampled Heartbeat, and what Heartbeat actually became was the biggest earning record ever. What Iny Kamosi's "Here Comes the Hot Stepper" became the biggest earning record ever with Heartbeat in it, and the way that it's made the most money, it was karmic. It was my dad being a part of that process from the jump, and then me now. That was 81 to then 95, 14 years later. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody else made an R&B hit afterwards in the 80s with Heartbeat.
Heartbeat, there was a bunch of people. Marky Diaz sampled it. Curious Georgia sampled it. What was it?
A female.
The three group. There was a 3-girl group that was signed to Fever. I can't remember that.
Yeah,
name
but
now.
yeah.
So a few people that sampled it.
Yeah.
But Here Comes the Hot Stepper to this day is one of my top grossing records. To this day,
For you.
2022 is still it still cranks. It still does 2 million a month on Spotify.
Like Ani Kamozi's, he's good.
Oh, he been good.
Yeah.
He been good since back then.
Damn.
So,
Big up Dutch. I'm trying to find you though.
was there when you when you graduated high school? Were you like, I don't really need to go to college because I'm doing this?
Nah, I was.
I would have been that way. I'm
I,
sorry.
I didn't know
I was
that
like that
I
way,
didn't
didn't
know
have a
I
reason.
wanted to.
I'm sorry.
But I grew up in the day where when you're 5, you want to be a fireman. When you're 10, you want to be a police. Like, what you gonna do? When I was going to high school, it was like I'm taking electronics. Why? Because the whole world's gonna be run by electronics, and I better know how to run a computer. I gotta have something good to tell my mother's friends. Salaam, what are you gonna do when you grow up? And I'm telling them something good to get them up out my face. So when it comes down to it was that. And then when it was time to go to college, I realized I didn't want to do electronics. So then I said, you know what? I'm gonna do business management because at least if I work at McDonald's, I'll be the manager, right? Oh, that was a good one. Yeah. So I was taking business management classes, but that stuff was easy for me. It was numbers, like the English. They tell me write 1,000 words. I'm gonna write 800 because I had a way with words. They still would give me an A-, but you didn't do the 1,000 words like I said to. But your point, the way that you described it, made the point come across so clear that they couldn't fight me on it.
Yeah.
But then when those last couple credits was like study of a Puerto Rican in New York, study of like philosophical stuff.
Right.
That was just like, so what are you thinking? I'm just like, yo, I got beats in my head. So my dad was like, yo, I told him, yo, I'm sitting in class, but I can't hear the teacher talking because the beats just taking over. All I hear is the beat while I'm looking at him like Dad, it's gonna be crazy. And I would literally get home, dump all my books out my bag, put my records in a sequence and some disc in there, and I head to the studio. And at that point, I'm making like $1,000 a night. You know what I'm saying? In college at 18, whatever, I'm just like, pff. And if I get my own joint, when them start popping off, I'm getting $10,000 a pop. So
That's how you were looking at it.
I mean, that's what was happening. And then when I got Jiggy signed, toss it up, right?
That's awesome.
So when I get Jiggy signed, we done some demos, and then I had to finish their album. So now it was like 91. And, I hadn't finished. I started college in 89. So it's probably like the spring of 91. I had 6 months left. So I was like, Dad, look, I need to finish this album. So I'm going to take 6 months off of school. Shit. And then if I finish the album and I don't got no more work, then I go back to college. It never happened.
But that work came, huh?
Heavy. Never stopped.
Damn.
Bro, this is like, don't take this the wrong way. It's like Forrest Gump. I'm not saying you're Forrest Gump. I'm just saying the things you've been around. It's like, oh, he was my friend. That happened to be Funkmaster Flex. This person.
Angie Martinez was aboard.
Yeah.
Like a relationship. So how did the relationship with the Fugees happen then?
So the remix I did for Mega Benson, Soundboy Killing. At that time, Flex was playing it. It was Black Scorpio, Big Up Jack Scorpio. And we were getting that record. We had it going. We was working it. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Burrows was the product manager. Jeff Burrows has done many, many things. But at that time, he was product manager at Columbia under Angela Thomas. And then one of his groups was the Fugees. So him and I think Jessica Rosenblum were either roommates or they're close friends or something. So he's like, yo, I need to get something for my group, the Haitian, like that. If I can get one of those, and the sound so heavy and so clear, that'd be dope. She's like, oh, really? Let me ask Flex who did it. So he asked Jessica, managed Flex. Yo, Flex, who did that record? Oh, it's Salaam. So I go and I meet Jeff Burrows. At the time, I'm in Columbia all the time anyway because I'm doing all the reggae stuff. So I'm like, yo, what's up? What you want to do? So he plays me the group. And I'm like, all right, who manages them? Because, I have to understand the package and who I'm playing to. Yeah. So I'm like, who manages them? And he's
still doing that radio DJ thing.
Well, that, and then also I got to understand, I can only give All I Want Is You to Mark Pitts, who's going to understand that bad boy feel. Somebody else is not going to get that. Just think, I don't know, it doesn't sound like what's on the radio today. I don't mess with these research kids that just get out of here. But anyhow, so I was like, he's like, David Sonnenberg. I'm like, all right, perfect. So at that time, David Sonnenberg had sent me Ani Kamosi in the first place. He first met me when he had a group called Natural Selection. And I was 17, and they were renting our studio. And I think they were signed to East West. And basically, it was a black guy and a white guy. And they wanted me the black guys like, yo, I need to put some beats underneath the songs. That's like, the black guy was singing, the white guy did the production. We need some beats because he heard me up there making these remixes, and he was like, yo, them beats is knocking. So can you meet with my manager? So I go and I sit down, and they play me a song. It's a pop song. So I tell David Sonnenberg, me and my 17-year-old wisdom, you know what? That's a pop record. You don't really need me to do a remix on it. So thanks, but no thanks. But basically, keep your money. And he was so taken aback by me saying, nah, I don't want to do the remix because it didn't make no sense.
Right.
Keep your money. Nice to meet you. And I was walking out of his place that when he came time, and Aini Kamosi did come to him through Jimmy Cliff's nephew, Sipo. So Jimmy Cliff has a nephew named Sipo, and basically that was Aini Kamosi's manager during that period or whatever.
Damn.
Representing them. And that's how David Sonnenberg sent me Aini Kamosi, and we made a demo deal to do some songs. So bottom line was I knew who David was, and they also at that minute had a management roster of Biz, rest in peace, my boy. Biz was with them, and through Bernard Alexander was working underneath David Sonnenberg at the minute. They had Biz, they had Akinelli, who I went to grade school with. Me and Ak went to junior high together, like 83 to 85. Me, Ak, and E Moneybags. Biz, Ak, Jungle Brothers, Fugees, and Nas.
Wow.
That was that click. That was like a thing.
That was who they were on the management roster, David Sonnenberg and Bernard at that time, at that exact moment. So I was like, all right, David, cool. And then Bernard too. He's like, yeah, Bernard's around too. I was like, perfect.
You know who that is, right?
And then Bernard.
Shout out Bernard.
And Bernard was, his Eric Sermon's boy. He used to dance for EPMD, all that other stuff. So then Bernard, and I think he road managed him after a while, but then Bernard actually was like, well, Eric Sermon wants to do it, but me understanding the music business totally at that point in '93, I had to get that last 2 signed a check before Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving,
oh yeah, you're not getting until January.
February. If that, what I'm saying? After the Grammys, if the Grammys is happening, they playing on my mother anyway. So anyway, I understand that whole thing. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. So Eric Sermon won 12, all right, I'll do it for 10. Or, he won at 15, I took 12, whatever was.
He came in lower.
Lower, and then also I had the relationship, so let's do it. Bottom line was, I did it. Wyclef came by. I figured out what it was. He rhymed for a whole 15 minutes. I cut up. Like, this is the part that you're going to rhyme on. That's the part you're going to keep, this, that, and the third. He brought by, Lauren and Praz. I sat down, listened to everything else, and Nappy Heads became their first hit.
People thought that was a remix, but people thought it was a regular.
I mean, it was a new record. It was just only reason it said Nappy Heads is because that's the budget that we used to do it. You know what I'm saying? To connect it back to the album. It was a brand new record. It had nothing at all to do with the other record.
So it was a brand new record.
Brand new record. There's not. I don't even think there's a phrase in there that's the same.
Got it.
In the lyrics, nowhere. It was a brand new record. I produced them from scratch. But when
what
I
made
did
those
that,
drums hit like the way that tack. Like, what were you doing? Like, you had a sound in, like.
Oh, definitely. What I was doing was like me studying my craft. It was engineering, understanding how it went. It was 4 things. A lot of it was Tribe Called Quest influence. So that
we love Tribe.
So that patat is the same snare as a War Tour. A War Tour starts off that way. Dun, 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 quiet. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, patat, 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 heavy days. So if you listen,
I was telling QDZ about that where Tip got inspired for a War Tour.
Yeah,
Jay, don't walk away.
Oh yeah.
Boom. So then back to me. Now I listen to what Tip did. This is how it works, right? So live sampling. So I'm listening to what Tip did. Boom. I had those drums. He chopped them up different for a War Tour. So then now when I go mixing wise, I know to keep that low. Yo, Nappy Heads whispering. Because when you whisper on the record, the nosy person turns it up automatically. It was the brilliance of where do you see my dick? The way do you see my dick? Hey, Mr. Yoga, I beat that cat with a dog. But you turn that record up so loud after them just yelling to the window, to the wall. They come back quiet. So it's the same thing. That's happened later. But bottom line is, yo, Nappy Heads, but you got some treats on us. And then, Lauren says that in a whisper. I go, word, pat, patat, patat. The the same way a Warped Tour drops with that heavy bass, I now drop the bass. That's the bass notes off of Dwick. With the first two notes, put them in the SP200, and then I made the record pop. And the energy of it, when Clef first came to me, they were doing that grimy Onyx style. And I basically said, nah, I blended It Ain't Hard to Tell by Nas and J. Rule's Come Clean acapellas on it. So you want the front, that's J. Rule, right? Yeah. So that you want the front, you want the battle swing. I bring, Clef pulled himself right into the same pocket where Nas and J. Rule were. So then now he was there. So then when he rhymed a lot, and I took all these different pieces, it was Chiba Chiba y'all, I'ma leave y'all, rap was the thing, I'll be the last breathing dinosaur. I was just like, keep the Chiba Chiba y'all, I'ma leave y'all. Why? Because Flex didn't like Buduf Baf. But I was clear that if this record comes on and it's quiet and it got something for him to cut up, boom, Chiba Chiba y'all, I'ma leave y'all. Now I'm in. Because he going to cut up that Chiba Chiba y'all. Why? Because he's from the age where he knows Spoonie G. He know, you know what I'm saying?
So you're thinking of it from a DJ, how that can get them to...
I understood the DJing perspective from the clubs and the radio because that's what
they would tear that record up.
That's who I was living with. I was living with all those people. And, going through Miss Lauryn Hill's verse where, what you going to do, things got me through. I was like, dude, she was saying the monotone. I was like, do that like Old Dirty Bastard. And Jabos and Timberland Boots, that's the surface. That was like, she's like, I don't want to sound like Derek X. You're not going to sound like Derek X. You just add a little flavor in the line. And then she would always talk about we out in California and they're saying, don't with Jerry Curls because I'm not from the West. But I made her say it with the melody of what Snoop would have done. But she was like, yo, every time I say that line, I was like, damn, Salaam. But you said the line already. I just told you put some melody on it. Yeah. So then that way you so I produced her into where it needed to be. And the same thing with that whole record. By me producing them on that and by me producing them on the vocab, and then they ended up doing their own version, which was, once again, Jeff Burrows' original version. That's what he played me, them doing vocab a cappella first or with guitar. And then I did Fujila. I did songs for Clockers, the movie.
Hell yeah.
And
dope ass soundtrack.
The songs that I worked on, the Mega Banton and the Rebels Authority records, I also cut a song called Project Heads with the Fugees and try to submit it. But during that session, the beat that I made for Fat Joe, that Fat Joe and Chris Lighty came to my house because he heard, He said, give me one of those beats. It's the beat. It's not them. I'm like, all right. I make a beat for him. Clef says, yo, play the Fat Joe beat. Lauren's like, yo, play the Fat Joe beat. I play the beat and Clef jumps up and says, we used to be number 10. I got my own studio. We recorded it. Then they got their second budget for their second album.
So they kept that record as...
So we had two records. The record that we did for Clockers didn't get used. We were going to put it on the album, but it didn't fit. So it was kind of maybe too tribey. It was a little too late. I was in that space. But then the other song that I did Fujila. And then they started coming up with ideas, and the Clef came back to me. It was like, yo, so they wanted me to produce with them, but this had to be like a deal, like I couldn't be more than a 25% writer because I got to split with the group, and it was like all these different rules. And I was just like, let me hear what they got. You know what I'm saying? So Clef came and played me a bunch of beats, and I was like, you don't need me. And at that time, Q-Tip, again, had just mixed Mobb Deep's album.
Yeah.
So he mixed it, and then he produced a couple songs, but he mixed it. So I was like, you know what? Y'all do the album, the beats you got, and he played me like How Many Mics and Ready or Not and a few other ones. And I was like, you got this. Just you go ahead and do it. Yeah. And then if y'all need something, call me. And that's really what it came down to. So by me pushing him, I saw Clef say on the pod recently that inspired him and let him know he could do that. And then whenever something came around, he'd be like, yo, Lon, what other rhymes I got? Going to November, I produced the vocals on that. He was doing an instrumental, and I was like, why are you going to do an instrumental? Nobody's going to know what that is. Like, what they going to call it? Like, what they going to call it? Yeah. So I was like, yo, put some words on it. So then he went, he's like, what could I do? And then I remembered the Going to November lyrics. So I was like, nah, it could fit like this. And sat down and got him to lay it down, and that became Going to November, one of his signature records. So through that, but then while he was doing it, then Clef went on to produce Destiny Child's first hit. And then he's like, well, I showed him how to produce by producing them. Wow. And then he went on to do that.
Yeah, he sure did.
I went by the session, you know what I'm saying? I saw him there. Hey. So the No. I was there. I mean, it was already a song that Rob Fusari and Mary Brown and them had done on the Destiny Child, but then his No remix became a hit. And I went by the session. It was at Chun King. I remember they were there. He was teasing Kelly Rowland had the Tony Braxton cut. He called her like Mickey Mouse or something. She was like, "Oh, why would you call me that?" Like, the product manager Stephanie was there. I clearly remember the room, but then I saw him doing it. He looked at me, and I was like, "Yeah, you got it. It sound good, cool." Because I was big brothering Clef into just doing what he needed to do, even though he's older than me.
That's
You
crazy.
know what I'm saying? But the energy of it was, I ain't never got to do a record for Beyonce because I helped the person that helped you, and now we're paying it forward.
Did you work on Clef's Carnival?
Yeah, I did Bubble Goose.
Oh, that's my shit. You did Bubble Goose.
Yeah, I did Bubble Goose.
You remember that?
Hell
It
yeah.
was like he sang, and Bubble Goose. Oh, that was
So
my
crazy part is
What?
I had that beat and I had a rhyme to the beat that I had written, right?
You fucking yo.
So I had
too much.
I had a rhyme to that beat, and then one day Clef comes to my studio. Nah, it's this beat you played me, and you had a rhyme to it. And I'm like, really? And at that time I had albums
hear
full of
that?
stuff. So I turned around and I couldn't remember what it was. And he sat with me all day. We went from my studio, then we went to my apartment, and I'm going through this. Like, what are we talking about? And it took us probably to like 10 o'clock that night.
Listen.
For me to find the one, and I played it. He's like, "That's it."
And you took it. And he took it.
That's the one he wanted.
I tell
he
you,
knew what beat he wanted from, I guess, years before that.
Clef, that Carnival album is probably one of my favorite mixed hip hop albums. Sonically, it's some things going on in the album. Like
We. I mean, the album was done, and I remember Praz asking me a bunch of questions, but not to be crazy with it, but Big had just passed.
yeah,
It was 97. I know.
yeah,
Big had just
97.
passed.
Right.
And Praz came with a couple ideas. Praz is the pop here. Guantanamera,
Yeah.
and We Trying to Stay Alive.
That's all prize.
It was Praz's ideas. I mean,
Those
Jerry-
two songs mixed like
those two songs on the album, those are Praz's ideas. Praz, it's like, yo, I got an idea. Yo, what's the name of that record? And he kept calling. I was like, Staying Alive. He's like, yo, and then I remember he pulled up on me at my studio, like, yo, listen to this. And he plays it, and boom, boom, yeah, son, we just trying to stay alive out here. Look what's going on. I was like,
there's some low end frequencies in that song that
yeah.
I'm like, what?
Between him and Jerry, it was crazy.
Oh my gosh, I need to talk to Prize.
I don't think hip hop producers like yourself, I don't even want to say hip hop, but just music producers, especially in the urban sector, don't get the respect from a genius
You know how many
perspective.
times I call him just to ask him random ass questions?
Dog.
Salaam, how many times I call you? Like, hey,
You call me all the time.
I call him. I'm like, yo, I'm listening to Grace Jones. He said, oh, that's the connection between Blackwell.
That's crazy. This is.
But yeah, we had these conversations all the time, bro.
Do you still hear the genius and I don't want to be like this older person, like I'm older. The new hip hop is not the same way. But do you still hear the genius
In newer music?
and newer hip hop, newer music from the culture?
I think that there's a lot of people that are doing something genius. I always look back at Soulja Boy, right?
Yeah.
And Soulja Boy at the age of LimeWire was a teenager.
Yeah.
Humble beginnings. I think he probably had a cracked Fruity Loops on a PC and LimeWire. And he figured out how to make his dance, Ayu,
Yeah.
and get his paper to get up out of, you know what I'm saying? And it was
Yeah.
putting his song up on LimeWire with 50 Cent name on it and different stuff to get people to download it so that they go, what the hell is this song? He marketed himself into another space. And I think that the genius comes in so many different forms that if somebody coming to me and they're asking for Nas Made You Look, or they're asking for a record I made already, I just almost end the session because you're not going to get your record sounding like it was made for somebody else's moment and what they were going through.
Yeah.
I got to hear your story. And I met with the artist recently, and I told him, well, I heard a bunch of stuff you did, but those are the pictures other people took of you. I got to meet you for myself because I might see something in the picture I take of you that they didn't see. I can't judge what your potential is based on what they were able to capture. I got to talk to you myself and then see what I'm able to capture because you might say something that sparks, but you know what? This is a closer reference to this is where it's happened. Because, everything is not new under the sun, as they say.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's 360 angles to any one point. So, as I'll be saying stuff, and then my daddy be like, yeah, that's cool. That's your truth. because that's the 3.5 foot, 4 foot version I had of the truth from my angle. But from his angle, sometimes I talk to my siblings, and because I'm 10 plus years older than them, they're like, well, this and this and this happened. I'm like, yeah, but you wasn't there when this and this happened, or you were too young or too short to see it. The same point, we can all get different perspectives, and they have memes like that all the time.
Yeah.
So I look at everything that's happening. Soulja Boy being able to now make himself a millionaire, put himself into the ether. The same that we all have. You know, this country, this economy, this planet at this point isn't served for the black person to get forward. And Nas always says, you know what? When he came from Africa, they took our drums. But as soon as we got our drums back, we ruled the world. You feel me? And that is just the energy. When we do something and it's right, when them cats and those labels look at the streaming chart of the week, and there's 9 artists up there that they don't understand why this record is streaming bigger than Christina Aguilera or Pink or Justin Timberlake, or what happened? Are we losing control of our country? No, you pushed us all into streaming for free before you did everyone else. The mixtapes got illegal, and now it turned into live mixtapes. And now, you know, Future got a record with Miley Cyrus, and it don't make a difference. So now he's putting songs at mixtapes in the gas stations for free, and Fuck Up Some Commas becomes a song. Because at the end of the day, what we feel as a people, you know, LA was like, I don't know what he said, but it sounded good. What it came down to, it wasn't for us to be programmed. It's for us to program our frequencies to each other. So all that to say, I feel like there's a lot of genius potential in what's happening in today's hip hop, but we also have way too many people just trying to copycat someone else's frequency. You know, yeah, everybody has to just find their genius frequency.
Yeah. Right.
And if you find that, you know, I always say if you dropped a bag of snares off in Atlanta and people weren't scared to use them, half of those cats might be like Timbaland. But they just too busy using the same thing.
Salaam, let's move forward to what we're doing now with your scoring. Every time you send me something, you did the with Jennifer Hudson with Aretha Franklin, right?
Oh, they mean the Andrew Day.
Andrew Day. I'm sorry,
the
Andrew
Billie Holiday movie.
Billie Holiday, amazing. First of all, like Andrew Day killed it.
Yeah, she became her.
Yeah, 100%. Lost her weight, great. Then you just sent me something. You just scored the Emmett Till documentary. Yes.
Big up Fatima McCurry, my ace. And what we were able to do as far as, she had an Emmett Till, Mammy Till documentary. It's called Let the World See for ABC News. And the music of it, for me, I like to score things. And this is what I learned even working with the Lalo Schifrin and doing the Rush Hour 3 stuff. Sparkle, I did with Salima Kill, Mara Kill. I like to do things that have a personality. I don't want to just copy 3 notes and it's a score and it's there. And what I loved about it was that looking at the story, of course, Emmett Till, it was a historic story, just like Billie Holiday's a historic story, just like Tyson documentary. Mike Tyson sitting there, talking about his life. There's only one time that these things happen, and the way that they were explained was so important. I felt that the Emmett Till story also reflected the Mississippi to Chicago migration. The history of Mississippi being such a racially, we don't care what the law is, we're going to do it our way space. And then people going to Chicago, and then they're looking at them up north people coming down to Mississippi, the Mississippi River, what that was. And in 1955, when it occurred, I had to play music from 1954 into 55. Then I was like, where am I? That's Muddy Waters. That's Howlin' Wolf. That's the blues coming from the Mississippi blues and turning into the Chicago blues, the Chess Records blues. So I was able to dive into that and really look at the train that they were riding back and forth between those two places and then make music to it. So,
because I looked at clips and it was a score underneath. It was no quiet moments in there.
Nah, we pretty much covered the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm like, because he's capturing emotion. I'm like, you just sucked into what somebody's saying, and you're like, there's music underneath there.
Right.
It'd be subtle, it'd be low, but it'd be like, there's. And I'm like, damn, am I missing this, or am I just?
Are they telling you that, like, hey, let's keep it continuous, or you're feeling
they did some
yourself?
reference stuff, but this, being that the director is somebody, you know, who's my close friend of 20 plus years, and that we work together on so much stuff. You know, she was my creative director when I was on Sony stuff, so she did all the Mac Wilds videos, all that other stuff. So I pretty much understood what it was, but she trusted me to make it happen. But I also understood what's really black and inherently black. So there's a thing where they go into a church space there. And what I did was myself and, you know, my other young producer, Goose, and my engineer, Ryan, we was sitting in a room, and actually my musician, Vince, as well. But we was sitting there rocking, and I had some chords playing, but we were all
Church.
But you know, when you in church with the elders, they ain't necessarily singing. They singing Jesus on that man, Jesus on that main line, tell them what you want. But nobody told them what notes they were going to and where it was at. We just felt it. So when we were sitting there, I looked at them and I was like, who taught us how to do that? There is no teaching how to do it. You would have had to lived it and absorbed that from your people. And what we were doing, that came from the slave aspects of it. That came from people being forced to be in a space where, and that's Africa, that's everything else. So it was a spiritual space for me. And musically, all I had to do was look at the spirit of what they were going through. And it was really hard for me to do because then I had to put score underneath the murderers of Emmett Till. Wow. And their arrogance and sitting in court smoking cigars with their kids in the front row. Like, so
you pissed looking at this.
Oh, it hurt me. It hurt me. Yeah. It took me months to get out of the funk.
That's a sad story.
It's a sad story, but it also,
it's an important story though.
But the arrogance of them and the Derek Chauvin arrogance matched. You know what I'm saying? So comparing that to the George Floyd, comparing that to while this is going on, while we're scoring and finishing it, the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery are found guilty and sentenced and all this other stuff. So all this stuff happens, and I'm still working on this. What happened in 1955, and I'm still dealing with this in 2022. The same thing, the same arrogance. They still playing with voting rights now. You serious? Yeah. But then the bigger self said, you know what? I am now the spirit that's embodied in Salaam, writing the rest of the history for whatever Salaam can do. So at this point, I stepped away from it because this isn't just now. This is not just America. This is not, the Egypt. You know what I'm saying? How much stuff came from Africa and was whitewashed? Not just Black Jesus. Prior, you know what I'm saying? The mythology, the mathematics, everything else comes from somewhere that was there and now made to look like you didn't create it and that somebody else did it. So it wasn't just, the blues and then Elvis. This happens thousands of years back. You know what I'm saying? What was Greece was actually Egypt and was Kemet and was other parts of Africa where other people, you know what I'm saying, manipulated. So I just looked at it and said, you know what? I can't take anyone stealing my idea now. They're just pork. You know what I'm saying? That's just who they are. I can't change that. But what I can do is continue to persevere the way the spirits of the people that we've come from. Just the fact that we're able to be Black, successful, not enslaved in financial and not enslaved mentally and spiritually, and liberate ourselves and still create a better play. That's why in sports they're mad. You know what I'm saying? But how long can the NFL not have a Black owner? Well, just what are they keeping us there for? Because it's money. You know what I'm saying? But you made us feel like we need that money. Otherwise, we just all leave and just start our own league tomorrow. But then who will fight against it? So you know what I'm saying? There's just so much drama in it. And I'm not looking forward to the 2024 election because this 2020 election definitely had everybody double locked and loaded and ammoed up unnecessarily. You know what I'm saying? But that just is the spirit of division that happens with the humans. And I'm representing the plants and the animals and the universe to which, makes it all possible. Not the arrogant humans of whatever industry I might be in, whatever places. How much good can I do as a spirit, and how much things can I leave forward, and how much positive energy and ions can I create for myself? And I listen to music in my head. You know what I'm saying? I listen to Anita Baker. I walk around my house because guess what? If everything goes off tomorrow, I have these great memories and these great energies that I can manufacture and keep doing. Yeah. And I post them on my gram because I just be like, I'm really feeling this today. And guess what? Somebody else might feel it. So now they physically seeing it, but at some point I'll just be able to say something to you. And then we both laughing for the rest of the day just because I said 2 words. Because we know what that means. Yeah. Well, that's what we know, and that's what they don't know because they ain't live what we live.
Damn. Thanks, man.
Salaam Remi, bro. Listen, just thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for your juice, your food, your time.
Hospitality, man.
Yeah, and
knowledge.
allowing us be in your space. Because, I think now, post 2020, when someone says, like, come to my house, it means a lot because we're not moving. Like, people are setting up their homes in such a way where it's like, everybody else can't be in this space. So we appreciate, I know you and Fuzz got connection, but really appreciate being a part of this, man.
So good. I mean, hopefully for me, more than anything else, somebody picks up 2 words out of this and they're able to multiply that in ways that I will never know. You know what I'm saying? Way beyond all of our existence. Yeah. And that's the beauty of where we are now with the digital age. We can create things now. And, just like I'll be searching videos from 50 years ago, 40 years ago, everything else, 60 years ago. And I would love to see something happen, some point somebody's going to be looking at this and then taking in these words and be inspired. Amy Winehouse was inspired by people that passed before she was born.
Damn.
And then there's people that's born after she passed that will be inspired by her. The same. Little kids, how they see Michael Jackson, they be like, ooh. And they be like 2, 3, 5 years old, and but look at what it's doing. So look at our ability to create things, build things that will be there. And I'm utilizing everything through my new energy with Nostalgia Future Tech to actually create goodness in a blockchain way, taking things into the analog metaverse. I'm saying, taking these things that we know need to be true so that when we walk in there, we don't feel like we're in a Swedish refrigerator looking at ice.
Looking at something we have foreign.
You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing in it that feels like it's for us. Wow. When we go in there and we see something inside the culture, we're like, wait a minute, you're going to move. You're going to sit down in that church service. Why? Because they're going to be playing that, we grew up on. I mean, I like what's happened after it. That's cool. But what we grew up on, homegrown, ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man.
Nostalgia Future Tech. That's the name of this episode. With Salaam Remi. You like that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we need that link for that Amazon link for that thing.
Definitely.
Just putting us on a lot of stuff.
Each one teach one.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Big up Keizo who put me on.
Hey, FAQ Podcast. If you want to advertise, go to fuzzynq@gmail.com. Follow us, FAQ Podcast, YouTube, anywhere you check out podcasts. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.